Blinken's multi-day diplomatic visit is Nader Hashemi, professor of Middle East politics with Georgetown University. Good morning, Nader. Good to see you this morning. So what is your view of how successful this shuttle diplomacy has been for Blinken these past few days?
Well, I don't think it's been very successful. I mean, one of his stated objectives was to try and convince Israel to diminish the loss of Palestinian deaths in Gaza. And just over the last 24 hours, we're getting reports that about 150 Palestinians have been killed, over 300 injured. So by that measure alone, it's been a failure. Last night, there was the largest attack in the Red Sea by Houthi rebels, threatening international shipping. The West is threatening to now bomb Houthi targets in Yemen, suggesting an expansion of this war. So I don't think this has been a very successful trip for the United States. And fundamentally, I think we have to remember that the Secretary of State was there not to engage in conflict resolution, but really conflict management. And even by that measure, I don't think he's managing things very well.
Do Arab countries trust the U.S. to have their best interests in mind?
Well, when we talk about Arab countries, we have to always distinguish between the ruling elites that run those countries, largely against the wishes of the masses of people that they dominate. Those are two separate things. So if we're talking about, Arab states and the ruling elites that dominate those Arab states, generally speaking, many of those Arab states are closely aligned with the United States. But now there's a major division that has emerged in terms of their alliance with the United States. While they, want American protection, American arms, American security support, their populations are enraged over what's happening in the Gaza Strip. So now these Arab states and these Arab ruling elites, who really are, fundamentally interested in perpetuating their own rule, have to sort of balance the outrage from their societies over what's happening in Gaza with their alliance in the United States. And so they're sort of stuck between those two, poles, having to try and balance both of them. That's how I see, this playing out in many of the Arab states in the region.
Blinken continues to call for a two-state solution. Why is Israel so opposed?
Well, Israel has been opposed to a two-state solution for a very long time, but particularly under this hawkish right-wing, government with, neo-fascist and fascist ministers. There's just a deep ideological antagonism to the idea that Palestinians have the right to self-determination in historic Palestine. So I think, we're dealing with a government here that is just right from the beginning not willing to entertain the notion, and they've openly said so. And this is Benjamin Netanyahu on down, that they don't believe that a Palestinian state is in the cards and it should be entertained by the international community. So the United States is now in a dilemma. What does it do? It wants to support Israel, but Israel strongly opposes at least a key foreign policy position of the U.S. government, and that's a two-state settlement. And this U.S. government is not interested in, imposing any consequences on Israel for their open defiance of a two-state settlement, which is a position that most of the world supports. So I think that's the fundamental dilemma here.
You mentioned Yemen's Houthi rebels continuing to attack ships in the Red Sea. So far, the U.S. and the U.K. naval forces have been able to fight back, to push back. Where do you see this going? What's the impact?
I see it escalating. I see the Houthi rebels digging in. Their stated position is they're going to continue to attack international shipping as long as the crisis in Gaza continues. The U.S. and British position is they don't want to impose any consequences on Israel to roll back its military campaign in Gaza. So we're headed for a confrontation. I suspect very soon that the United States is going to start hitting targets in Yemen related to the Houthi rebels, which will just expand this conflict regionally and will have drastic consequences on Middle East stability and also on the international economy, because 10 to 15% of global trade passes through the Red Sea and the Suez Canal. So I think we're headed for very dark times in the near future, and I think that serves to highlight the fact that this trip by Secretary Blinken really, I think, will be looked back on by historians and diplomats as a colossal failure.
Nader Hashemi is a professor of Middle East politics with Georgetown University. Thank you for your time with us.